All right, guys, speaking of Trump, he traveled to East Palestine, Ohio. We've, of course, been covering the aftermath of that train derailment and their decision to do a quote-unquote controlled release, which was a giant fireball of toxic chemicals that has had lingering impacts on the community and that politicians have been very slow to react to. All right, so backdrop is, remember, we track this very closely. Lever News has done the best coverage of detailing the way that industry corruption has consistently stripped safety regulations, starting with the Obama administration, who sort of buckled under pressure and limited the scope of the new safety regulations that they were putting in place. Then Trump arguably did the most damage by completely rolling back even some of the safety regs that the Obama administration had put in place, in particular with regards to this braking system. You have the Biden administration maintains that status quo and, of course, joins with Republicans to crush the workers' movement that was trying to raise concerns, safety concerns, specifically, about potential incidents like this. So Trump's hands are not clean on this issue whatsoever, quite the opposite. However, man knows how to spot a political opportunity. And while Joe Biden was in Ukraine, Trump traveled to East Palestine. Here's what he had to say.
We're bringing thousands of bottles of water, Trump water, actually, most of it. Some of it we had to go to a much lesser quality water. You want to get those Trump bottles, I think, more than anybody else. But we're bringing a lot of water, thousands of bottles, and we have it in trucks, and we brought some on my plane today. And Norfolk Southern needs to fulfill its responsibilities and obligations. And I see that they're starting to come here now, too, because they also were saying they're not coming. But it means that the affected communities beyond the borders of East Palestine are going to be taken care of. And they've said so, and they've said it loud and clear, and I think they probably mean it. I sincerely hope that when your representatives and all of the politicians get here, including Biden, they get back from touring Ukraine, that he's got some money left over. Biden and FEMA said they would not send federal aid to East Palestine under any circumstance. They're not going to send aid. I thought that was a strange statement because I've been working with FEMA for a long time, 4 years, and they were great with us with the tornadoes, the hurricanes, and things like this. What's your specialty today?
How are you today? Nice to meet you.
Hello, everybody. That's a nice, beautiful looking group of people. So I know this menu better than you do. Okay? I probably know it better than anybody in here. We're going to take care of the fire department.
Okay.
We're going to take care of the police department.
So that last piece there was him at McDonald's, for those of you
just
listening, which is
like, I know the McDonald's menu better than
we
do.
could ever
Probably true, actually.
Yeah.
Given how much the man loves McDonald's.
And there's a lot to say about this, actually. First of all, clearly his political instincts still on point. Democrats handed him an absolute layup. They're such morons. Pete not going there yet, Biden not going there yet. I mean, opening up this space to make that talking point of, hey, he's in Ukraine, we're here, and I hope they still have some money for you guys when they get back.
Brutal.
And then the other piece is a media story, which is, he wouldn't be able to get away with going there and pretending like, oh, this has nothing to do with me and I'm just here to try to help, if the media had done their job of explaining that backstory of corruption and how his hands are very dirty in terms of caving to industry pressure. But since they don't do that, he can just ride in like a hero and distribute his Trump bottles of water.
Look, Trump is back. I mean, I can feel it. I can sense it. I haven't seen. He's fun again in a way that McDonald's, And look, I'm not saying this gives me pleasure to say this. My whole monologue is really about his own record with respect to foreign policy. All I'm saying is, pure politically, for him to waltz into a town clearly neglected, force the media to cover it, it's just like exactly what he did with Flint in 2016. You remember that, Trump? Yep. And he actually won Flint, if we'll recall. There's that good documentary about the Flint Police Department and how they all so much supported him in 2016, and it caused like a big political stir at the time. And then the deadliest talking point of all, he's in Ukraine, I'm over here. I hope he has some money that is left over for you. And, the moment, actually, while the Biden speech was happening, I texted them while I was abroad, and I was like, hey, immediately what popped in my head, Kyiv before East Palestine. And then Secretary Buttigieg is visiting today after Donald Trump. What is the guy doing? I remain, it's like, how can you possibly have not immediately gotten on a plane? Now the President Biden has yet to put out any full comments or anything on East Palestine. There's no announced visit.
Yeah.
Where is Kamala Harris? I mean, send somebody. At the very least, Buttigieg was supposed to, he should have been there a week ago, if you think about it. Maybe
least,
more, 9-10 days ago.
Yeah.
He should have been one of the very first people on the ground with a FEMA director. She should have had the Ohio governor and all those people right next to him being like, I'm taking charge. I'm not leaving East Palestine until this is all done. Where is he? Oh, I know where he is. He's here in Washington taking personal time. We'll tell you a little bit about that.
We'll tell you about that
later, when he got mad at a reporter for actually asking him when he was going to visit East Palestine.
Well, and here's another piece is the Republican governor of the state, Mike DeWine, does not come out looking good in any of this either. He admitted before that the White House had called him and he just didn't call them back to ask for aid for the area. He also, he was asked a question. We've been tracking the water test results that were used to give the all clear to residents to say it's all good. You can drink the water, no problem here. And it has increasingly become clear that the EPA relied predominantly on a contractor that was paid for by Norfolk Southern themselves. So the polluters paid for these water tests that the Ohio EPA was predominantly relying on. DeWine got asked a question by this, I believe it was by our friend Rich McHugh, News Nation, now investigative reporter who we've known for quite a while. Fantastic journalist who's been there on the ground, who we had on the show earlier in the week. In any case, DeWine reveals he really doesn't have a clue what's going on, hands it off to the Ohio EPA director, who basically confirms the outlines of that story. Let's take a listen to that.
Has the EPA tested the water independently?
Yes, we're testing it independently.
Was it initially tested in conjunction
I'd
with
have to
Norfolk Southern?
ask my director.
The Norfolk Southern contractor did AECOM. They did their own testing. That same sample at the same time was collected by the county and sent to a separate lab.
The Ohio EPA confirming to News Nation it was done in conjunction at first, but will now begin its own independent testing starting today. And Pete Buttigieg announcing he will finally come here to the crash site, responding to criticism he did not visit sooner.
To be clear, our department was on the ground within hours. I could have spoken out sooner, and I'm making sure that we are focused on the actions that are going to make a difference.
So DeWine there's like, oh yeah, we're doing our own independent testing. And then he's like, well, I don't really know. Let me get to the EPA director, who's like, well, not actually. Now we're starting to do our own independent testing after they've already told people it's all safe and fine.
It's a disaster. Look, Biden administration and the Republican governor here have left the greatest political opening of all time. And with Buttigieg at this point, I don't know how in the hell that this guy continues to have a job. And Biden himself, I mean, Biden, you could always say his political instincts were at least better than a lot of the people in the media, right? A lot of the elites in the party. He has lost it. Clearly some of that. The idea of visiting a foreign country while you're dispensing hundreds of billions of dollars to them and literally giving the greatest talking point of all time, that he cares about another country and another country's borders more than he cares about your own. That is all you're going to hear from the Republican Party. And why shouldn't you? Because now it's creating the political pressure on the Biden administration where they feel on the back foot. And Krystal, clearly the Democrats, they know they screwed up now at this point. The National Democratic Party is silent, but they're looking at this, and it is a total 2016 replay. I really think Trump, I tweeted this earlier today, Trump's power levels are higher than I've seen him in years. He hasn't been talking about Stop the Steal. On Twitter, he's honestly pretty funny. Or Truth, sorry. Meatball Ron is fantastic. I'm sorry. It's just the best, one of the best nicknames I've heard in a long time.
He says that's fake news, Saagar. Yeah. He would never call Meatball Ron Meatball Ron.
He's going to say, you're right, exactly. I'd never call Meatball Ron. Just devastating him publicly, looking at Nikki Haley and just brushing her aside, just, almost smirking at her candidacy. And then the political genius of just swaltzing into East Palestine while Biden is in Ohio. The Trump water and making the joke about all of that. That is vintage 2000. Yeah. He seems more unshackled right now than ever. Now, look, Trump is always his own worst enemy. He hasn't been talking about Stop the Steal all that much lately. If he does get indicted in Georgia, clearly, that's going to come back to the fore. So he's one of those where he has immense political talent and immense political baggage. Right now, you're seeing the talent aspect, I think. And if he continues, it's only going to work out even better.
Yeah, and no talk about abortion from him.
No, not one word about it. He's not a stupid man. You can always say that.
The last thing I want to point out, which I raised yesterday, go ahead and put this up on the screen. I think we had covered before how Libby, Montana has Medicare for all because of this provision that got put into Obamacare, where if you have an area that's deemed a public health disaster, and that town had been poisoned basically because of the result of a mining operation there. But you can, if you're deemed a public health disaster, you can actually invoke this provision of Obamacare to get Medicare for life. Now, listen, in my opinion, everybody deserves Medicare for all, but at the very least, these residents who we know were exposed to a known carcinogen deserve to have healthcare coverage for themselves and for their children for life. Because after the TV cameras go away and after the immediate symptoms and the smell of chemical contaminants, after that all fades, it's years down the road when we will really know the true health impacts of what ultimately happened here. And to lend myself some credibility, David Dayen sort of seconded the idea because he's the one who flagged for me originally back previously that Libby, Montana had this ability and that this was something that the Biden administration could potentially use. And he said he was warming to the idea it requires a public health emergency declaration. EPA has already said to Norfolk Southern that the situation fits under CERCLA, I don't know what that is. HHS would then have to create a specific pilot program for East Palestine based on potential exposure. So, and he goes on to add 5,000 new people on the Medicare rolls is a rounding error. Government would have to admit the potential for harm from chemical exposure, though, which would seem to be the main hurdle, as nobody really wants to say that right now. So that's the barrier, is they don't want to admit that there was potentially damaging long-term chemical exposure here that could make them eligible for this provision.
And when they admit it, they have to admit their own role in not going and trying to fix
That's
it
right.
as soon as possible.
That's right.
So these people, look, they've been screwed from day one. We're not going to let this go, and we just can't. It's unfortunate that the Biden administration, really the media, have left this open for Republicans and for independent journalism, but we're going to take it because, you can't just forget these people. It's just really not right.
That's absolutely right. And to that point, we have been partnering with Status Quo on the ground. They have a journalist there who has been talking to residents over days, if not weeks at this point, talking to them about their symptoms and doing some digging in particular into those water tests. So let's get right to it. Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now, and Saagar and I have been brainstorming ways that we can really up our game for this critical election.
Yeah, we rely on our premium subs to expand our coverage, to add staff, to upgrade the studio. We just want to give you the best independent coverage of this election, which is possible. So if you can help us out, become a premium subscriber today, breakingpoints.com, or the link is down here in the description video. It really means the world to us, and if you like what we're all about, this is the best possible way to keep us 100% independent, working only for you.